Show and the Oddball Foundation is dedicated to mental health advocacy through art.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oddball Show features content intended for mature audiences. If you'd like to view a content warning before listening, please check out the episode description. The views put forth by our hosts and our guest reflect the speaker's opinions and not the official stance of Oddball Foundation. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Wright. My name is Jason Wright. Let's start that over. Hey everybody, welcome to Oddball Show. My name is Jason Wright. Tonight on the program, we have a very special guest, and also this program has a purpose. This is a plea to our viewers and listeners to help this man who's coming on the show, Howard Trachtman, in his quest for a kidney. First off, I want to say that Oddball Show is brought to you by Oddball Foundation, a 501c3 built for mental health advocacy through creative art. And now to introduce our guest, Howard Trachtman. Howard Trachtman is an incredible person with an incredible story. Howard is an incredibly active member of the mental health advocacy community, being a major conduit of change, spearheading programs like Opening Doors to the Arts, an amazing feat that gives everyday people like you and me access to art, music, and all sorts of events. He has his finger on the pulse of all things advocacy related, often being part of many campaigns like Stop the Shock, which we will get into, as well as others. I began corresponding with Howard a while back as I've run into him before at NAMI events and always have kept in touch. A few weeks, last time I talked to him, he said he was in sore need of a kidney, and I thought it would be a great idea to make an event and let people know Howard, his story, and how we all can help him. He's an amazingly accomplished advocate who has a lot of talents, and we need to help him to further his mission. He has served as Boston chapter organizer of Empower, co-founded the NAMI Greater Boston Consumer Advocacy Network, founder of Two Hats Networking Dinners, and serves on the NAMI Massachusetts Board of Directors. He's also the NAMI Advisory Council on Restraint and Seclusion, NAMI Consumer Council Disability Law Center Board of Directors, as well as DMH Council on Recovery and Empowerment, as well as other board positions such as Edinburgh Center, Human Rights Committee, and more. And that is why I urge you to listen to Howard, hear his story, and give a helping hand. Howard Trachtman, welcome to Oddball Show.
Hey, Jason, I really appreciate it and your help in promoting my cause to get a kidney. Just a little correction there. That was my bio of organizations that I've been on the boards of over the years, and not all of them are current.
Yeah,
still very, very active.
It's like a history of everything you've been doing, but you are very active. So tell me, how you been feeling lately these days? Here, let me just, how you been feeling these days lately?
I'm in good spirits. You know, I've been on dialysis for just over a year, and I'm pleased that Brigham and Women's Hospital is listing me for kidney transplant.
Great.
And I have a pool of friends and colleagues prepared to help me out post-transplant. Hillary and Jessica, both are my go-to people for help with the transplant. Jason can put my email address into the chat, and there is a web page you can go to learn more about myself and how to get screened for a kidney donor. It can all be done online. I'm told by Brigham and Women's that not to screen yourself out, that pretty much everybody should fill out the screener regardless of medical condition or age. Although I was told that if it's diabetes, that takes a toll on the kidneys and that possibly would screen you out. But even if you're not able to donate a kidney yourself for whatever reason, you can still help out. All you have to do is take the flyer or the website in the chat and circle it amongst your friends and family on your Facebooks, on your social media. And you never know who will see it and want to donate. I had a birthday on August 1st, and I went to the butchery in Brookline, and they let me put out a couple of flyers with my picture on them. And I've already had several people seeing those flyers and wanting to get screened. So you never know who can be a candidate.
So let's talk about that. So this is great. So how can someone first, they follow the National Kidney Registration, they go to this at the bottom there, the National Kidney Registration, they see your story, and then what happens?
They can click the button to be screened, and it'll ask you preliminary questions.
So screening is a bunch of questions.
The goal is to find a match because
Mhm.
based on things like blood type, um, there's different factors going into how you get matched. But here's the deal. Even if you don't match me, if you give me a kidney, if you match somebody else that needs a kidney, then they'll get that kidney from you, and I'll get the credit for that, and I'll be moved way up on the list.
Well, that's
Living
fantastic.
donors is so important because the wait for deceased organs can be 5 or 10 years for a deceased organ, and they're not always in the best shape. Whereas with a living donor, you know you've got a quality kidney. And like I said, the dialysis that I go to, it robs me of my time to do my advocacy work. I go to dialysis 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I get picked up around 10:30, and I get home around 3:30. A huge chunk of time, and I just do I. But I wanted to let people know more about myself. That if you do feel inspired to get screened or consider donating a kidney or sharing the website with others.
Of course, if you're just listening right now, this is Jason Wright on Oddball Show with Howard Trachtman. I want to thank Hillary for tuning in. Thanks, Hillary, for joining. Hillary's listening, as well as some other people, but I wanted to shout out Hillary. Thank you for listening. So, when we talk about dialysis, what is dialysis like? How does it feel? What does dialysis feel like?
Well, years ago, my doctors thought I would end up on dialysis right away, and I had a fistula put in. If you look at my arm, I had a treatment today. You'll see 2 sets of bandages.
Oh,
So
did that hurt?
dialysis cleans your blood
Okay.
because when the kidneys shut down, they're not able to remove fluid and toxins from your bloodstream as well as when you have working kidneys. So the machine acts like a giant filter to clean your blood. And with one needle through the tube, it takes the blood in, and then another tube brings the blood back in. And basically, if you gain weight in between treatments, they consider it to be water weight. And based on how much water weight you gain in between treatments, it determines how much fluid they want to take off of you through the machine.
Have you lost a lot of weight since dialysis?
My weight's been pretty stable on dialysis. I was trying to lose weight for a long time. My high weight was 250, and I decided I really wanted to work on my weight. And I started walking every day and seeing a personal trainer 1 hour a week. And now I'm down to about 160 pounds. But
Wow.
just before I started dialysis, I lost 10 or 15 pounds in a week, and that was very unhealthy and another symptom that I needed the dialysis.
So if I hear you right, that dialysis takes a lot of your time when you could be doing some really great advocacy work.
I still try to put the time you could use. I make some phone calls. I do some Zoom meetings. I was supposed to be on the 988 crisis jam today doing the hot seat and who wants to be a millionaire kind of question with 4 multiple choice questions. And then I was going to poll the audience and ask a friend, Monica Luke, for help. But we got Zoom bombed on that meeting, and I didn't get to do it. But I'll be prepared to do it again in the future. But,
aren't aware of 988?
yeah. It was to create an easy to remember number for people with psychiatric crises to call and get help over the phone. And people just couldn't memorize a long phone number for the National Prevention of Suicide Hotline. So by having a new 3-digit number makes it easier to remember. Now, the promise of 988 hopefully is to increase the amount of mental health services and crisis diversion. For example, trying to avoid a police response to 911 calls. It's a pilot program in Eugene, Oregon called Cahoots, and they've been able to eliminate over 90% of calls that do not require a law enforcement response to a mental health crisis. Because people do get harmed by police sometimes. If a person's hearing voices and doesn't understand the police, people have been shot and killed. And we're trying to create alternatives to this, more places for people to go, people to get help quicker. And in Massachusetts, we have the Behavioral Health Helpline that recently launched to do this.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like this is just tip of the iceberg advocacy work that you're doing. Not tip of the iceberg. Yeah, tip of the iceberg. Where we're at now. Now let's go back a decades, a decade later, or a decade before. You haven't always been involved with so heavily in advocacy. So when did this first start for you?
Well, as just having been a student at MIT in 1983, I had a psychotic break, and I was changing planes, and I was brought to the crisis center, and the doctor asked me if I heard voices. So I heard people talking normally. I said yes. I didn't know what he meant. When I said yes to that, I got put in a 4-point restraints and injected with Haldol. Luckily, my parents flew up in the morning and brought me back to Buffalo, and I soon ended up hospitalized there for a few weeks. And I went back to school and got really good grades, but I missed the Boston area and came back in late 84. But I wasn't on any medications, and in 1985, I had another psychotic break and ended up in the state hospital here in Waltham for 9 months in that state. And then I started living in group homes and going to day treatment programs and going to therapy and going to group therapy, and smoking, and I wanted to work and they wouldn't let me work. And I just didn't really have a lot of going on in my life for many years until I got hooked up with the mental health peer movement in 1995. I went to my first Empower meeting, Empower being Massachusetts People Patients Organized for Wellness, Empowerment, and Rights. And I was mentored to do direct action and lobbying and negotiating with the Commission of Mental Health, got on the board of directors, became president of the board of directors, became the Boston chapter organizer, became the webmaster. And I just learned a lot from everybody else. And that really helped me in my recovery. That happened in 1995. Also, coincidentally, the same year I went to my first alternatives conference, which I held yearly. All peer-run conferences with workshops and networking and meeting people. And
so can we go back to that for a second? So you went to your first alternatives conference when?
1995.
Oh, wow. I went to one in 2017 in Boston. And
we had one in Boston then. Yes, we did.
Yep. And it was awesome.
Our NAMI affiliate paid for about 12 people to go to that, everybody who wanted to go.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I went, I believe I met Rokas Lupik there, who I've had on the podcast. And he talked about some interesting stuff that's happening.
Dr. Ryan Copeland was there, the creator of WRAP, Wellness Recovery Action Plan.
So in 1992, what was happening in the advocacy peer movement in 1992?
1995.
1995.
Well, at Empower, it's a slogan called "Nothing About Us Without Us." That we want to be at the table whenever decisions are made about us, and we wanted there to be more peer roles and more peers working in human services, and we just kept doing our advocacy work. So that empowered me, and then I decided later to give back, pay it forward by mentoring other people myself. So I started what's now called the NAMI Greater Boston Peer Support and Advocacy Network in 2004, after being on the state board of directors a couple of years. And we convinced the board to start the Inner Voice public speaking program. Then we convinced them to start the NAMI Connection 90-minute structured support groups. And then we convinced them to start peer-to-peer, an education class, multi-week class on learning to live with mental illness. So I do all of that on the NAMI side. In 2005, I co-founded the Boston Resource Center at Boston Medical, 100% peer-run organization. And in 2008, we got the contract for the Metro Boston Recovery Learning Community And in 2012, we got the contract for the Southeast Recovery Learning Community. So we currently have 4 recovery centers in Metro Boston, 4 recovery centers in the Southeast. We have a peer support line open 7 days a week that people can call. And we also run the Opening Doors to the Arts program. So I had given Jason a number of websites to look at. Maybe he can dribble them into the chat or in the.
Yeah, I could actually share some of them. Actually, that would be actually something that we could do.
So I can go over them a little bit more slowly.
Sure. Yeah.
I took over Opening Doors to the Arts in 2008 when we started the Recovery Learning Community. And this is a socialization and networking program where people get concerts and theater tickets for free or for reduced prices. Our concerts include Boston Philharmonic, Boston Symphony Orchestra, Handel and Haydn.
I'm going to put these all in the chat.
Thank you.
But
Our
I also want
theaters
to share the
include
websites
Speakeasy
as well.
Stage in the South End, Lyric Stage in the Back Bay, Wheelock Family Theater in the Fenway. And we just started going to Red Sox games last year, and this year we've been to about 8 games, and we have a couple more games against Chicago we're hoping to go to.
So let's check that out. Opening Doors to the Arts. This is a really cool website. It's opening doors to the arts.org. And if you see it right here, you can see that you can join us right there. And free tickets to theaters, concerts, and social events for those with mental health challenges. So it says mental health challenges. Is that just that's how do you know if you have, I mean, how is it if you
people
have
identify as relating to having some kind of mental health concerns of their own?
Okay, so
Not
this
like
is, yeah. So, Opening Doors to the Arts, come join us. Free and reduced price tickets. I actually, Howard and I worked together to have ODA at the Oddball Festival, and ODA has been in operation for over 10 years. Made up of men and women around the Boston area who are peers interested in attending social events on a regular basis together. So, is ODA a community? Is there a lot of people in the Opening Door to the Arts community?
We have an email list just for Opening Doors to the Arts. There's several hundred members on that list. But I also have an email list for important mental health information where I share webinars, jobs, trainings, articles of interest. And if you get on that list, if you get on that list, you automatically get the Opening Doors emails.
Okay. Should we?
Go back.
How do we get
someone
to?
Yeah. Want to get on my email list? They just email me, and I give them a conversation. If you don't want to get the emails as they come in, because there can be a lot of them, you can get the digest mode one a day. But while you have that up, it says Two Hats Networking Dinner. Very interesting thing that you have up there. It has its own website now, which is twohats.org. It's the bottom link that he just put into the chat, and he just clicked on it.
Yep, so it should show right there.
Because this dinner was a networking dinner, and it used to meet in Cambridge on the second Thursday of the month. And I see on the ODA website, it still says that. But that had to end when the pandemic started. We decided to start it back up again, and because I'm on dialysis and limited travel, we decided to do it on a Friday night in Waltham on the second Friday of the month.
Great.
We had our first dinner this past about a week or so ago in Waltham, phone number 1. We had 13 people come from all over, and hopefully we get a good turnout next month as well. But it'll be at phone number 1 in Waltham. That's all on the twohats.org website. We do like people to RSVP so we can adjust the reservation, but we're not going to turn anybody away.
So, Howard, at the bottom of this, there's your email address. Can they just email you for anyone listening to be part of your email list?
That's correct.
So if you want to be part of the email list, just email Howard at hdt@mit.edu, and you can be part of opening doors to the arts. Two hats. What else? What else we have to talk about as well? We have other websites that you were sharing. So
Sure. So the top one there is mbrlc.org. That stands for Metro Boston Recovery Learning Community. They are all funded by the Department of Mental Health, but there's no referral needed. You don't need to be with an agency. You can just identify with the community. So DMH funds 5 recovery learning communities across the state, one for each of their 5 catchment areas. So by starting the original recovery center at Boston Medical, we now have the contract for both Metro Boston and the Southeast. The original flagship Boston Resource Center is at Boston Medical, but we fund the Hope Center through North Suffolk at the Lindemann Center near North Station. We fund through VinFen and Janelle Tan the Cambridge Somerville Recovery Learning Center in Cambridge. And we fund Bay Cove's Peer Support Network, co-located at Center Club on Boker Street near Haymarket. Those are our 4 MBRLC sites. We also have the Southeast Recovery Learning Community contract. And we have centers in Hyannis, Quincy, Fall River, and Brockton.
So tell me more about the Metro Boston
Recovery Learning Communities are funded by DMH. And the Northeast one is operated by the Northeast Independent Living Program. The Central Mass RLC is now operated by the Kiva Center. And the Western Mass RLC is called the Wildflower Alliance.
Oh, okay.
I mentioned Empower earlier, gave me the start. It later sprung off to be the Transformation Center.
Oh.
It had the contract to do the Certified Peer Specialist training. I was in the first class in 2006 and passed the test and became a Certified Peer Specialist. So that organization spun off and now became the Kiva Center. And they continue to have the Certified Peer Specialist training and operate the Central Mass Recovery Learning Community.
So let me switch gears with you because these are all really great things that you're doing right here. I received an email because I'm part of your email list about Stop the Shock. What is Stop the Shock, and how can people get involved with that?
The Judge Rotenberg Center has been around since a long time ago, and it uses what are called they're trying to correct behavior on the part of the so-called students, and they're hooked up to a device that gives them electric shocks if they violate any of the rules. And it's not even clear what the rules are, and the rules can change. It's the only place in the country that does this. We've tried to get it banned, or the FDA to ban it. The legal advocates have been trying to shut them down for decades. And somehow they have a lot of good lawyers, and they've been able to beat off the efforts to shut them down. So I've been part of this since the 1990s. And there's been different groups over the years that have sprung up. There's a global group called Close the JRC. Elisa Hunt recently started an organization called Stop the Shock to stop them from doing this. And she recently had a rally on the Boston Common.
And how'd that go? How'd that rally go?
It went well. I wasn't able to make it due to a previous commitment, but I heard good things about it. Well, and if people are interested in being part of that, if they email me, I can pass it along to Elisa, and they can get involved with that. I did create the website restraintfreeworld.org years ago. I haven't been able to update the website, but I mentioned how my very first time I met a psychiatrist in the community, I got put in restraints and had multiple restraints and multiple psychiatric hospitalizations. It's horrible. It's not needed. It's torture. I chaired NAMI's committee to end the use of restraint and seclusion for many years, and we did workshops at NAMI conventions and alternatives conventions and PRA conventions and lots of places. And it's just really horrible that this is going on, and we're trying to stop it. That committee is now broader in scope as the NAMI Peer Leadership Council Advocacy Committee. And as a tail end to the stopping use of restraint and seclusion, I've gotten into the movement to ban the use of solitary confinement. I mean, if you don't have psychiatric problems going into prison and they put you in solitary, you're going to have them.
Right.
People
Absolutely.
are put into these places, and it's just horrific what happens. And it's really funny. I was doing a workshop at NAMI in Seattle on solitary confinement, and my mom and I went to a bookstore in Pikes Market, and she found a book on ending solitary confinement by Dr. Terry Coopers, and we bought the book, and I've since become a co-presenter with him at other conventions. And there's just some legislation now in California on ending solitary in California. And I emailed him about it. We spoke on the phone today.
Oh.
I told him about another conference where we might want to present called Peer Apocalypse, which is going to be in Oregon next year. So we just keep fighting the fight, getting the word out, growing the movement, getting more supporters, and doing what we can.
So you've been in this movement.
For me, never doubt that a small group of people can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever did.
Wow, that was really a beautiful thing you just said there. So you've been in this movement for of peer advocacy for about 30 years, would you say? And now is the time for someone to help you with, like you've helped out a lot of people. Now we need to help you. And this is why we're doing this on Oddball Show, is because I wanted people to know how great all the stuff that you've done, and how right now you are literally looking for a life-saving thing here, right? This is life-saving. So this is why this is so important. Register to be a donor. If you're listening to this, well, first of all, let's talk about this. What is the difficulty of finding a donor? I guess we talked about it though. But what is something that like maybe someone doesn't want to give how does someone? I know people who've given away kidneys before, but what keeps people from doing it, do you think?
It's a very good question. People have their reasons, but the biggest one is that no one asks them, or they don't understand what's involved, or how they can help. And again, even if you don't want to donate a kidney yourself, you have two of them. You only need one to survive.
Mm-hmm.
You can help out by sharing the link with other people that may be interested, encouraging them to share.
That's the way to do it.
Be interested,
right?
So if you're interested, donate to a family member. The number of altruistic donors that just do it to help out is pretty low. But
but it doesn't have to be a family relation to someone. It just has to be a match, a healthy kidney. Right. And
just help by spreading the website around and encouraging other people to spread it. Eventually someone will see it. Jessica just ordered some bumper stickers with the website on it, and she's happy to mail them to anybody that's interested. So if you'd like a bumper sticker, just email me and I'll send it over to Tess.
Honestly, we're not asking you to give a kidney. We're asking you to share the link, share this Oddball Show, share Howard's story, share this around to people who do. I mean, if you are the person who wants to give a kidney, you hear Howard's story and you're fascinated by his work, please do. But if you just want to share this along, just share it along to people. That's all we're asking for. Share this podcast, share this link, reach out to Howard. But the best thing you can do is this episode is all about Howard Trachtman. This episode is all about how we can help him get a kidney. So please just share. If you want to become Howard's kidney donor, just go to the National Kidney Registration and also email Howard. And also email Howard if you want to just get more involved with NAMI advocacy, peer advocacy, I get stuff from all over the place. I get stuff from Wildflower. I get stuff from Madness in America. I get stuff from Mad in America. I get stuff from podcasts. And also, you have the finger on the button of all mental health advocacy that I can think of. It's a very valuable newsletter to be a part of. So I think it's incredible. So, all right. So in a perfect world, Howard, you get your kidney back. You get another kidney, amazing recuperation. What's next for Howard? What do you want to do? What are some of your hopes and dreams for this next couple of years?
Well, I'm trying to grow warmline.org. I started the Edinburgh Center's Warmline in 1990s. And when we bid on the recovery learning community, I made sure that we had a Warmline in there. And we do, and now it's open 7 days a week. So it's a portal of information on all things Warmline, but if you've seen one Warmline, you've seen one Warmline. What is a Warmline? It's like a hotline. You can call it for any reason to talk to a peer. Warmline operators are peers. And people can call just to say they had a good day and want to report it back, or people could be having a crisis and just want to talk to somebody other than a clinician. So it's a valuable resource, but there's very few warm lines that are 24/7 and very few warm lines that take calls from outside of their local geography. So we really want there to be a national warm line. Ideally, there'd be a 3-digit code like 988 or 911 that someone could call at any time and get a peer. So most of these warm lines have to pay their staff, and it's very expensive to run a warm line, and the funding sources vary from warm line to warm line. So the goal is to create a national number that people can call and talk to a peer over the phone, and getting the funding for that. So we kicked this off a couple months ago. We met with Paolo DeVecchio. And Paolo DeVecchio is the first person with lived experience to really work for the federal government. He worked his way up to become head of CMHS, and now he's the director of the Office of Recovery at SAMHSA, the federal agency for mental health. And we pitched him a couple months ago on a warm line conference where we could all come together from across this country and learn from each other about how to do warm lines. And he liked the idea, and we did it. And we had about 30 people come to DC for the 2-day conference. With my dialysis, I couldn't travel, but I participated on Zoom. And it was very, very successful in networking us together for some positive outcomes. And I continue to participate in the core group for warm lines and the Copeland Center group on warm lines, and trying to partner with some warm lines to make this happen to be national. That's my dream, a national warm line that people can call.
Your dream is a national warm line where people can call. So a warm line is different than in your mind is different than a 988. This is just for communication, for have someone to talk to when they're feeling that they need to call someone, right?
Right.
And so if you call a warm line, what would you expect when you hear from someone from a warm line?
Well, it's primarily a listening line.
Mm-hmm.
If people ask for support or ask for resources, the warm lines are equipped to give that out.
Okay, so it's like a resource line. It's like a a free listen, like listening when you need someone to listen to line, almost like free therapy. And that would be a really great thing to have. I mean, what's another like initiative you're working on besides warm lines right now? Because that seems like a big one, and it seems like you have a lot of. Seems like you're really working on that one. Is there something else that you're working on?
Well, we're very happy to do the Opening Doors to the Arts program. I just got off that Zoom call early because I had to do this, but there was myself and 10 other people that helped me run the program. And I'm just very concerned what would happen if something happened to me, if I ended up ill, or if I did get the transplant. There'd be a period of time I'd be in the hospital without being able to do a lot. So we want these programs to continue. We want things to be sustainable.
Yeah.
That's why the NAMI affiliate that I started I turned it over to Eva Patowska about 8 years ago, and she continues to do our weekly support groups and being very active. We have a meeting of the NAMI Boston Advisory Board tonight at 7 that I'm looking forward to. And we like to do our outreach work and just educating people about mental health and resources and how to get involved.
Yeah. I mean, it's it sounds like you just have so many irons in the fire, and the only thing that's impeding you a little bit is that you need a kidney. So there's so much stuff you're doing, so much good you're doing for raising awareness for mental health advocacy in this state and note nationally, and so much stuff you've been doing for the last 30 years that you are a good candidate for someone to save your life. So I mean, you've done so much stuff, and I applaud you for doing everything you do. So once again, that's why we're having this Oddball Show. This is a special Oddball Show to learn more about Howard Trachtman and see how you can help him, because Howard is in dire need of a kidney. He's every time I talk to him, you're fighting the good fight, but every time I talk to you, you're like, I just got out of dialysis. I'm really tired. And help Howard. Register to be a donor at the National Kidney Registry. If you can't do that, just send this along. Share it. That's all we're asking you. Share it, because someone knows Howard Trachtman. Someone has been affected, hopefully positively, by one of the programs that he's either been involved with, started, or been a part of in some sort of way. He's championing for people who can't speak for themselves, like people who are like the Stop the Shock campaign and things like that. There's some real serious advocacy work that is being done. Help this man out. Help Howard Trachtman get a kidney. So, we talked about Howard's dreams of the warm line. We talked about the work that he's doing with opening the doors to the arts. Let me ask you a question, Howard. In an ideal world, what kind of tickets would you want to get for opening the doors to the arts? Like, who would you want to have like concerts for? I would just throw it out there, Celtics games. But what else, Howard?
We are looking at expanding to other sporting events, but the Red Sox was our first sporting event.
But now it's the winter time, so maybe you could get Celtics or Bruins tickets.
We're going to. We got the Red Sox tickets last year through a friend who had a Passover Seder with one of the part-time owners of the Red Sox, and they really liked hearing about the program. We've been able to do that. But for a lot of the theatrical and concert venues, we've cold called them and brought them into the fold, and we keep them very well because they really like supporting us. But for sporting events, you kind of have to have an in or a contact.
Yeah, right. Yeah, pretty much. And also, Howard, how can people get involved with your advocacy efforts? What's the best way to do it?
Well, like I said, even though I'm involved nationally and I'm very busy, a lot of advocacy work is one-on-one. So I'm happy to onboard people to advocacy one-on-one. Just have to email or call me. I put my email into the chat. I could put my phone number into the chat. Some people prefer phone.
Yeah. Okay. I will. You can put that in the chat right there. That'll go through. Okay. So let's see. So we talked about the awareness that you are doing. We talked about the need for the kidney. So I'm just going to close this off by saying, Howard, is there anything else that you want to talk about? Anything you want to promote? Anything before we sign off?
Appreciate people tuning in today live. I appreciate the people that choose to listen in the future. I apologize for those who missed it because of a bad link. That was a glitch that news you can use for the wrong link. But there were additional questions you had for me, Jason, if you wanted to.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Let's see. So I have
the assisted outpatient treatment bill.
Oh, you're right. I did talk about that. Yeah, there's so many things that. So how do you feel about peer respites and assisted outpatient treatment bills?
Well, it's a separate bill, so I'll take them separately.
Yep.
I've always been a fan of peer-run respites. And one of the first in the country was in Poughkeepsie, New York with People Inc. and Steve Michio. And back in the early days of the Recovery Center, when Carl Ackerman was alive, we organized a field trip to go there, where we stayed overnight. And we got to meet with Steve at his office, and we got to get a tour of Rose's house. It was just very, very empowering. We've been trying to promote bringing more peer respites to Massachusetts. But the Wildflower Alliance has one called the Thea House that does really well.
Yep.
And the Kiva Centers have one of their own as well. And they're a place people can go and having a hard time other than an emergency room. It's staffed by peers 24/7. And there's not kind of crazy rules like who you can have over, where you can go. It's just peer support at its best. And here's the beauty of it. It costs about a quarter of the cost of a psychiatric hospitalization. So that should be a very good selling point. So right now there's legislation that would fund a peer-run respite in every county in the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously I'm a huge supporter of that. Speaking of alternative conferences, I went to one in Omaha, Nebraska years ago, and we got to take a bus tour to see their brand new peer-run respite called Kia House.
Mm.
And so we're just championing peer-run respites. Outpatient commitment is something that's in 47 other states, and the forces keep trying to bring it to Massachusetts. Basically forcing people involuntarily to comply with treatment plans that they may not have written. The treatment plan could tell them what medications to take, where they could live, where they could go to school, who they could associate with, what clothes they could wear. It could say anything you want in the treatment plan. And if you violate your treatment plan, you can be brought before the judge and you can be hospitalized. We don't have enough resources now for people that voluntarily want help. So why are you going to prioritize people that don't want it? There's some very good reasons why people haven't wanted treatment. If they had forced treatment in the past, if they've been restrained or secluded in the hospital, they don't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
We've been fighting this legislation. It keeps coming up every session.
Why do you think that Massachusetts has held out the longest on the assisted outpatient treatment bill?
Well, partly because it's not needed, and NAMI Mass had not taken a position on it all these years until this year when they finally came out and said this legislation as written shouldn't pass and gave a lot of good reasons. So this has been a lot of our advocacy at NAMI in transferring the board and staff to be more peers and more peer friendly. So we've been very successful in that advocacy work.
So these are two separate bills, and we spoke about it on the Oddball Show before about the effectiveness of peer respites and what is the advocacy rate of peer respites versus hospitals, do you think? And do you have any data that says like where like the success rate is of peer respites versus hospitals?
That would be very good research to look at. I know that a Thea House is like almost never needed someone to require a hospitalization. So there's a peer I met years ago, and she's now got her PhD and her own research company. It's called Live and Learn, liveandlearn.net out of California. Her name is Leisha Ostro, and she's done research on peer-run respites that you could find on her website.
So I mean, the data is there that peer respites are an effective resource outside of hospitalization. So the fact that this bill is being voted on, when is the bill being voted on or final vote?
No, we typically only get like a week or two notice for bill hearings scheduled. That was the case with outpatient commitment. It was heard back in a couple of months ago, but there was a fire in the State House, so they weren't able to finish the testimony, and they had to do it over again last week.
So is it possible for the assisted outpatient treatment bill to not pass in Massachusetts and just
That's what
leave
we're
it?
hoping for.
Because if
Usually
47
goes
other
to
states have,
study and yep, it
yeah,
usually goes to study or die, but you never know.
yeah.
You
So
have
you
to
can
go.
continue to vote against it, and then it will continue to come back, but you can continue to fight against it, and eventually we'll be one of the beacons that doesn't have it um, in our state, because that it's not it doesn't seem like it's helpful. It seems like it's more of the same, and it seems like Massachusetts is trying to do something different. Um, so I'm really hoping that your continued advocacy work will change these kind of things. So so I want to go back to Stop the Shock because I think it's fascinating. How can people is there any bills about Stop the Shock or anything like that, or any kind of thing about that written up about to shut down that what center is it?
The Judge Rotenberg
Judge
Center.
Rotenberg Center. Is there any bills to shut that down, or um,
There was
anything
a
like that?
recent judicial hearing that didn't go very well. We literally had the FDA ruling against the use of the device, but for some technicality, we couldn't get them to stop using it.
So in a perfect world, Stop the Shock and more peer respites, no outpatient assisted outpatient, and also more warm lines. I know that we talk a lot about respites and sortillo houses and things like that. Um, what do you find the benefit of these peer run things versus like clinical staff things?
Well, we're not really trying to dismantle the existing system. We'd like to improve it, but we're adjunctive. We're an addition to
Yeah,
something that we're uniquely qualified to do,
yeah,
helping people navigate the mental health system and how to get help and support. And we've been through it. We know what it's like.
yeah,
Most traditional providers don't know what it's like. They just know what they learned in school or picked up on the job.
yeah.
I'll give you an interesting example.
Sure.
My first assistant, Rachel, we were piloting the use of peers in urgent care.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a good for people to know that in a separate crisis, you don't have to go to an emergency room, that there's urgent cares around the state that only deal with psych, where you can come in and be evaluated and you're not competing against the broken bones and the stabbing victims. It's just all psych and all designed for psych with much better outcomes. And I came on a shift and there's Rachel with one of the people waiting to be evaluated, and they're putting on makeup and laughing. And I'm like talking to them, just like, before I had a peer here, I'd come in here and I couldn't stand waiting by myself. I'd be flipping out and they'd restrain me
Yeah.
because there's nothing else they could do for me. And now I have someone just to sit with me and keep me company. And it's just making the whole process go so much better.
Mm.
And this is what we're trying to do, and we're uniquely qualified to do it. And
Yeah.
a lot of our people have a hard time holding down a job.
Yeah.
But if you're a peer, if you've had treatment and you're interested in working as a peer, it's a whole employment track, and there's trainings that you can take and workshops and the real program, certified peer specialist training. You can end up getting a good job that you're uniquely qualified to do.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, these are the kind of things that are important, that are the differences in mental health that we're trying to improve on. And, this is kind of the whole shoulders that we stand on. It's many years of advocacy work in the making to get where we are now. And, we want to continue to improve on it, improve on better peer respites, more funding. My personal thing is I want more better books and literature in hospitals and in GLEs and things like that. That's one of my passions. I feel like when I've been to the hospital, there was no adequate reading stuff or where I went, and I'd love to change that. That's just one of my small things, but it seems like there's bigger things happening, like restraint and seclusion, shock, all these kind of things. These things have to stop, and we're trying to do that. And that's why someone like Howard Trachtman is so important, because he has actually got his finger on the pulse on how this stuff is happening, and or at least helping to do this. So
So if you
that is
get on
why.
my email list, you'll get information like that, and you'll get the jobs. I just posted a job in Brookline looking for a part-time peer support specialist, and paying $19 or $20 an hour.
Yeah.
Just too bad for an entry-level job these days.
So email Howard at hdt@mit.edu to get involved with the national, with all these advocacy things, and just be part of Howard's email list. Seriously. And if you can help out Howard, please donate a kidney by following the link at the bottom, National Kidney Registration. Email Howard to get involved with all the stuff that he's doing, but also just seriously share this. My goal
Put
of
the
this podcast would
NKR
be to
link
get
into
Howard
the chat. Jason, can
huh?
you just put the NKR link into the chat again?
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah. I think and here's I let's see where so basically what I would love to see, the success of this podcast would be Howard to have to have Howard find a kidney. That's basically the point of this podcast. Howard is an interesting guy. He has lived an interesting life, and now he needs help. So please help Howard get a kidney. That's all we're asking for. Share this along. Share this to your friends. Howard has an interesting life. It deserves to be listened to. He's doing a lot of stuff with his advocacy efforts that are necessary in the state, and he's looking for a kidney. So please go to the NRK link here in the chat, and please help Howard find a kidney. That's the point of this. Share this around. If you can help out in any kind of way, email Howard or go to that link in the chat. My name is Jason Wright.
Any questions in the chat?
There were not not many questions. Most people just listening, and there was a lot of we should put a lot of information in the chat, so people have all these links, and this will be all over the place. So so that's great. So let's see, Howard, since I have your ear, let me see if I wrote let's see yeah, I don't know. We talked about restraint and seclusion. How do you see the mental health system evolving, would you say?
I would like to see that the clinical people view the peer workers as collaborative and helpful.
Yeah.
It's funny. I talked about the Two Hats networking dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go to it when it was in the 1990s at the Ducky Walk in Brighton.
Yeah.
And the reason for the dinner was we had peers working in human services that were in the closet. Their employers didn't know they were also peers.
Yeah.
And they were very afraid if their employers found out that they could lose their jobs. And that was very scary to people when we started meeting. So I brought the networking dinner back to try to open it up to a broader audience, and we've done very well with it. So it's twohats.org. That's the word twohats.org. And we're meeting at phone number 1 in Waltham on the second Friday of every month at 6:30 p.m. And it's a great way of meeting other people in the movement.
Awesome. Yeah. So you'll get all this information and more if you just email Howard at his email that's in the chat. And yeah, so Howard, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
It's been a pleasure being on the show, Jason.
Yeah, I really appreciate learning more about you and the history of all the advocacy work you have done here. Let me stop the share, and there we go. It was just a real pleasure to have you on the show. I really hope that things turn right for you in the future. That this works out. It gets shared. You get a kidney. Mental health advocacy was made, and you get a kidney, and that was the point of this show. So thank you for all the stuff you do for the mental health world and the advocacy world, and I just wish you the best of luck, sir. Thank you, Howard.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me.
My name is Jason Wright. This has been Oddball Show. It's been a real pleasure having Howard Trachtman on the show. Seriously, register to be a donor at the National Kidney Registration. Let's help Howard Trachtman out. This is really important work he's doing, and this is important work that you can do for him. So please, and also just share this along. This is the Oddball Show. Tune in 2 weeks. We'll be interviewing hip hop legend Sage Francis. He'll come on the show. We'll talk more about what he's doing. But for now, my name is Jason Wright. This has been Oddball Foundation, Oddball Show, brought to you by Oddball Foundation, a 501c3 built for mental health advocacy through creative arts, through advocates telling their stories. Be good to each other. Help out. See all the links in the chat. Help out Howard and read a book. This is Jason Wright, and this has been Oddball Show. Thank you so much, and we'll see you real soon. And one last thing. I wanted to say that it's important for these kind of things. When things like this happen, when someone does these great things in their life and they are asking for help, it's important to help them. And that's how movements keep on moving, and that's how people keep on surviving life. Because when something like a kidney or something that is needed, that's when you reach out to a friend. I'm reaching out to you for Howard. My name is Jason Wright. This has been Oddball Show, and I'll see you real soon. Thanks so much for listening, and see ya.
Show and the Oddball Foundation is dedicated to mental health advocacy through art.